turn that on. And I know we got to scrunch together to get in. Here we go.
We're all in here? All
As long as you
right.
can see us on there, we're good. Yeah. Oh, hey, hang on here. Let's do this.
Oh, yeah, the microphone thing.
There's your microphone. Now, it's got a magnet on the back.
You need to wear one.
But
I'll be
you know,
okay. My voice is loud.
So
It'll
put
be
it on
fine.
And mine's not.
No, that's true.
Right. Let's see here. And you, what it has, you put that and you put a magnet on the backside, and it'll hold it right up there near your, yeah. How's that look? Perfect. Here you go. Man, I'm excited about today's topic.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is Dr. Deb. Dr. Deb's been with us several times before. She even had you came here and treated a bunch of folks for a couple weeks. You got so overwhelmed with people wanting to know more about what was going on about naturopathy.
Yeah, so it's pronounced two different ways. Some people pronounce it naturopathy and some people pronounce it naturopathic. I tend to say naturopathic, but you'll hear it pronounced both ways.
Right. And I found Deb through a good friend of mine that had cancer, and he is cancer-free now.
I've heard that
Unbelievable.
news. I'm
Stage
very proud
4.
of him. That was all him.
Man, he's a
such good
warrior.
job.
I never thought. So he went from stage 4 cancer, and he had colon cancer, and then it went into his lungs and his blood, and he was stage 4. And man, he is. You know, Wayne is a friend of mine that I always tell this, and it's just 2 seconds. Is that I met him, and I've never met another person like this in my entire life. I was in a big group of people. It was at a church thing, but I was in that big group, and I was from out of town, and I didn't know anybody. And I look over, and here's this big tall guy standing up, right? And I'm like over here, and I'm just this little munchkin, everybody around. And I look at him, and he was just talking and stuff. And then it was like it was like everything quieted down, and he looked right at me. And I looked right at him. I never met a guy in my whole life, nothing, zero. And we both pointed to the back of the building so we could go talk. And when we walked back there, never met him in my life, walked up to him, we both embraced and started bawling and crying. And we have been bonded like brothers ever since. I didn't know anything about him. And he has been such a big part of my life and what I've done, and just been there. And anyway, when he had gotten cancer, I was like, oh, Wayne, is there any way that we can maybe look at this in another way, that maybe a natural way, instead of doing the chemo and radiation? Because I always think about myself, what happens if I get cancer? You know, I mean, I'm always thinking, because everybody is so prevalent, I'm like, what will be my protocol? Am I going to get the chemo, or am I going to go and I thought, I don't want to. I didn't know enough about it, but I don't want to go that route. And I said, Wayne, whatever we got to do if you want to go natural. And he had gotten through. It was something, because I think maybe I sparked some interest of looking that way. And then it was like meant to be, because he ended up finding somebody who went to Mexico to get treatment, and then found you. And then, and then from there it went to all the systems.
He built a whole healthcare team around himself. You know? And I might have been one little piece of the puzzle, but he had MDs down in Georgia who were oncologists, and everyone was working together. But he did a full natural protocol to take care of it. He did, and he made it happen.
He was a soldier. I mean, you told him eat that chair, it was going to be eaten. Yeah, he did that.
That's a true statement. That's a true statement. He did everything possible, and he took all the data from me and other people and sort of came up with a system that he could follow.
Yep.
And including hyperoxygenation and mistletoe therapy and all kinds of stuff. And he
Sure
did
did.
it all. And it worked for him, and that's great.
He's 75 and he's just killing it.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I've fallen in love with Deb. She's just amazing. I can't hear enough. When she talks, she goes, "Oh, forgive me for talking for 14 hours." That's why
That's right.
I can take it for another 10, all right? Because I just love what she talks about, and it's so detailed about everything. Yeah, when she talks, it's like a motion picture going on with me, you know?
Yep.
So, but she, I went to see her last week because I try to do blood work with her and keep up with stuff. And she was telling me about you. And, she was just explaining really quick, and I'm so horrible about remembering everything about what you say about the water. And it was about
structured water. We talked about that for
structured
quite a
water
while.
and all that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the energy,
homeopathy and all kinds of things we talked about.
So and then she mentioned you, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to get you on the podcast and share these things. And I know it's to maybe the medical people that, hey, they got your medical doctors and you do your stuff and you got your statins and people are just going. Sure. And it's going to be so hard for people to maybe believe what you all are doing. I just Googled, right? Homeopathy, and I Googled it right there. And
there's a lot out there.
Oh my gosh. Well, it
may not want to do that.
I know it. And it said not proven to be any effectiveness.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I really think with, we don't want to get into any politics or anything like this, but you got Robert Kennedy Jr. coming on, and he's like, let's make America healthy again. Sure. And I really think that people are getting tired of being sick.
Sure.
And I've heard it said that over 70% of our young men, cannot qualify for the military.
That's correct.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
70%.
It is really bad.
So we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
So with no further ado, who are you and what's going on?
I'm Nate Petersburg. I am a naturopathic doctor. I have got my license out in Washington State. I currently live in Lexington, Kentucky, which is unregulated. So I jokingly say it's kind of like the Wild West, which is great. Just don't do things stupid. That's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
The medicine that we use, there's not risk. There's always going to be risk with anything. I should be careful with that, right?
Drink too much water, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That was the joke in school. Never ever say to somebody, drink more water because they could have a condition that can make them worse. Okay. But realistically, like the things that we do, if you're following the directions, if you're keeping up with the naturopath, there's not a lot of risk.
Yeah.
So, I work very differently, similar to Deb.
Yeah.
She was joking before we started that I was one of her teachers in school, and
I wasn't joking. You were one of my teachers.
But
you taught homeopathy. So.
I did a lot there.
Many of us at Bastyr University would not have passed our homeopathy classes were it not for you. So you are indelibly in many of our memories.
Well, thank
you for being awesome.
But I do view things very differently.
Even
from the conventional, or even from, I'm going to be careful and even say from some alternative perspectives. I think of things very differently, right? I would consider myself what we call a vitalist. And a vitalist meaning there's more than just a physiological and chemical reactions that animates us.
Okay.
Sure, we have physical and chemical and physiological reactions. You go outside, you start to get cold. There's a whole physiological response. You stub your toe. There's a physical and chemical response. That's 100% true.
Okay.
But there's something else that animates us. Your interest in what you do is different than my interest.
Right.
That animates us differently. My like or dislike of a certain food versus somebody else's, that animates us. There's more that drives us, and that ultimately I would say too, we could use the wording, there's only one thing that can heal yourself, and that's you.
Really?
Only the body has the innate ability to heal itself. Now, with our world today, it's pretty toxic. There's a lot of toxins out there. We might need to help get some toxins out of the body to make it function better. We might need to take certain foods out of the body to make it function better. We might need to stimulate the body in certain ways that it gets the right signaling or starts doing the right things. But ultimately, it's you that does the healing. Once we get the toxins out, I can help the body or stimulate the body, but ultimately, it's on your timing now. Your body has the ability to heal itself. Doesn't mean every person in every condition, but it has the ability.
And and when I hear that, all I can hear is all these people saying, well, they've got this autoimmune disorder and they've had it forever, like just so many diseases. Sure. And people say, well, I've had this and this didn't help, and this everybody's dying all over the world, all these diseases, and you're saying, well, you don't have to do that. That don't have to happen.
There's around, so in the medical world, ICD-10 coding, which is how we diagnose the conventional medicine, there's over 15,000 diagnoses for illnesses.
The codes.
The codes that you can do for insurance. Personally, I think there's one. There's one diagnosis. Toxemia. You're toxic. Great. Let's figure out which toxins. Let's get the toxins out. Let's stimulate the body. Now, how well that can be done for each individual is individualized.
No matter what you're suffering from.
Yeah.
So let me take a step back, just because
I jumped ahead.
For people to just get our brains wrapped around this a little bit more. You know, when you said you're a vitalist, why don't you tell us a little bit what that means to you?
Yeah. For me, it means sort of what I said earlier. It's not just my physical and chemical reactions. It is understanding what's inhibiting the body. It is stimulating the body.
So like when we were driving here this morning, you and I was talking about how I wake up often between 1 and 3 a.m. And you know, that's typically, I guess, from Chinese medicine, where it's a liver issue. And so normally my, naturopathic brain would be like, okay, I need to take some liver support stuff. And I think of liposomal glutathione because that helps the liver traditionally. And like, this is how my brain works.
Sure.
And like, you know, we can make our own glutathione, but I'm like, oh, some exogenous supplementation could be supportive and maybe I'll sleep better. And that's how my direction works. And then you were saying, well, there's many other ways of looking at this, because if you think of 1 to 3 a.m. and you think of liver, every organ system is associated with emotions, you were saying, and so not all the time, but in some cases, liver is anger and
frustration.
And frustration. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I had just been during his visit. We've been talking about how frustrated and I called it angst, which is a combination of mild anger with frustration, angst.
Right.
Yeah. And I've been feeling a lot of angst lately.
Yes.
And constrained feeling, and so more than other times of my life, and that might be a way to interpret. You were saying to me. And so in that case, instead of liposomal glutathione to help my liver so I can sleep and not wake up at 1 to 3 a.m., perhaps we could do other things.
Yeah, I start everybody with food. There's a food, in my opinion, from what I've been taught, from what I've learned, what I see, there's a food that creates inflammation in the blood. That does not mean that when you take that food out, rainbows come out, leprechauns dance, and pots of gold.
Yeah.
But it means that we can now start to clean the blood.
So it could be any food. It could be clean food that you're aggravating.
Correct. So for example, my intolerance is potato, which sounds, just don't eat a potato. No, in America, it means I can't have salted butter, because salted butter has potato sugar in it. It's not labeled because it just says salt. But the food industry puts both iodine and potato sugar inside the salt. So the food industry doesn't have to label an ingredient inside of an ingredient.
Well, where do you start to find the food that's poisoning you?
That's something I figure out in the office.
Through our blood work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does some awesome research, and he's like on the forefront of some vitalism type research.
What is that about?
It's a blood drop. It's a single drop of blood.
So explain that to us.
The way I describe it now, or the best way we have, because we don't have a lot of the wording yet. Everything about, or I got to back up if that's okay.
Yeah.
The body's electrical. Our heart has its own electrical impulse, right? There's an impulse from the heart. We can measure electricity on our body. Acupuncture points, there is actually a change in electrical current on the skin at that point. Each point is a little bit different shape. So everything about our fingertip is less positive than our core or our head, because as it goes away from the body, it becomes less positive. So we're electrical. Our body functions. The reason I'm using it this way, we don't kind of have to break it up. Think of yourself as a body. We have a charge. We get a charge during the day. Whatever charge is available over normal function at night is what you have to repair. If you have
again now?
Whatever charge you have over normal functioning when you go to sleep.
Over normal functioning. So you get more charged?
You can, depending on what you're doing.
And I don't want to get off on that, but so the angst is more of a charge?
It could probably take away some charge.
Take away from charge.
If we think of charge as a positive replenishing of your battery.
Yeah, and I'm talking like electrically. So every organ has an electrical space that functions at, or I'll use a pH as a surrogate for that, so I can measure pH. your organs have a pH, your saliva, and we can use that as electrical.
Yeah.
And so because of that, your drop of blood has the electrical signature of everything going on inside of your body.
So when I visited him, and I'm just going to interject, we pricked my finger and we put a drop of blood on a
Piece of
paper, and that was the blood spot he's talking about. And then you put it, and you also did a dried blood analysis. Was that on a microscope slide though?
Yeah, but it's not what most people are used to thinking of dried blood, so I want to be careful on that. It is just a spot check in time to see what inflammation looks like in the blood. It's a visual
two
ESR.
Different things is what I'm saying. There were two different things that were happening. So I did the blood spot on the paper, and then I did the blood on the slide. We let it dry, and then he put it under a microscope. And what we learned from my memory, which was a year ago at least, was that I had more inflammation than I had expected.
Sure.
My dried blood showed. Okay. And so that was interesting. But, the more you learn about blood is that there's charges, like the red blood cells, when they don't have this charge to them, they'll clump, and we'll have what rouleau, which is it's like a roll of lifesavers. They all stack on top of each other, and that's not good because you want them separated from each other, so their charge makes them repel and keep a nice uniform distribution in the blood. That would be like the charge of the red blood cells, and when it gets messed up, then things start sticking, and it's not as good, right? So that's just tiny bit of what he's talking about. It goes way more. So then I'll let you continue. So now.
Inside that blood drop is all the electrical signatures of everything going on in your body, from your liver to your pancreas to your mitochondria to the basal ganglion cells inside the brain to the infections you had 20 years ago that you never fully cleared.
On that blood drop?
That's not a blood drop.
On a blood drop. It has every chemical you've never cleared.
What do you look at? Is there something that you see?
It's an electrical change. No, it's not a visual. It's an electrical change. So I pair it with other things that have the electrical signature of what I'm checking. And we're looking for a change in electricity that's flowing through the sample.
So you're saying the dry blood still has a charge?
Yeah, and so he was telling me, so this is all new for me too. Like I'm learning a lot. But it makes a lot of sense based on our structured water conversation that even that sample, that blood sample on that paper is alive and quantumly entangled with the person it came from, in essence, for lack of better terminology. And so while you're alive, you can test things you can use that blood spot to see if you have energetic, I guess, electrical
Yeah, I don't like the
issues.
other E word.
That's right. We talked about that. And so, and you even mentioned, which was astonishing to me, I had to ask you to repeat it yesterday, or one of the days we were at my fire pit talking about these things. If once the person dies, then that blood spot is not able to work anymore. It doesn't do the electrical testing that you do.
There's no electricity anymore.
Yeah,
Are you serious?
Because it's quantumly.
So if you take a dry blood from a person that has a charge, and then when they die, that blood's not charged
it's
anymore?
sort of dead now. But he can't do the testing that he does with it anymore.
I don't do any testing. It's all analysis.
Thank you.
And that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and so
dried blood.
Because one of the ways I've tried to describe it is because I brought up
remotely, so someone could you could send them a paper in the mail. They could put their blood on the tissue or on the paper, let it dry for a certain period of time, I guess, and mail it back to you, and then you could do all kinds of stuff remotely.
Yeah, but let's say you had strep 30 years ago. Let's say you had strep throat 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Doesn't mean you didn't get over it, but there's a really good chance that strep bacteria is even if it's not still there, your body can still be reactive as if it is.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason I say it that way is everybody understands PTSD, right? You get in a car accident 20 years ago. If you get triggered today, are you in the accident?
No.
But does every cell in your body believe you are? Yes.
Probably, yes.
Your body is reacting.
Really?
Everybody understands that. If you're next to the person, they're getting triggered, you're like, what's wrong? Oh, you're getting triggered from something and you're that
a firecracker
PTSD.
goes off and someone's like, oh, that was like a grenade and whatever.
But your body is reacting as if it was there again. So by not clearing these infections, we're more susceptible. The body can be more reactive. Antibiotics. Yes, the last time I took an antibiotic was over 15 years ago. But I had to treat myself last year for antibiotics because they're still reactive as if they're in the system.
which goes back to, in my brain, the way I think of it is, we learned, through Dr. Baker, who was the homeopathy instructor that you worked with at Bastyr, that, water has memory. And I remember when my background is engineering, and I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, because, and I learned that there are 3 phases of water. They're, solid, liquid, and gas, right? And as an engineer, I got that. And then I learned that there's a 4th phase of water, and that water has memory. And I'm like, I don't know about any of this. So I had to go down off the deep end studying. It turns out there's tons of scientific proof on how water is unique. And if you go down that rabbit hole and you study the amazing properties of water, and a lot of people have heard of Dr. Emoto's The Secrets of Water, where he was flash freezing water, and you say the word love, and then you take a drop and freeze it on a plate and look at it under a microscope. It's this beautiful snowflake. Whereas if you take the water and you say hate, I hate you, and then you put it on and it looks deformed. So it's very, very interesting. I encourage anyone to look it up. It's very fascinating. Just type in Google Dr. Emoto water. But so once I wrap my head around that, then I'm like, okay, maybe this quantum entanglement is the word I like to use in my engineering brain. Maybe this connection to, and remember, our blood is water. That's our water is our blood. Maybe there's some kind of power that we have in our blood that, and like he's saying that the antibiotics he took 15 years ago, that doesn't make sense. They would still be in the system. But if you believe that water has memory, then something else is going on that we don't know, right?
Correct.
Yes.
You saying that, the memory of inside my body, because, and people don't, we were talking earlier, but people don't realize this, but I'm in what, fight and flight?
Sure.
Oh, I bet you 6-8 times a day.
Right.
I mean, I got saber tooths on me, man. And it's like every day.
Right.
And that's why I'm trying to try to take care of myself so well. But you saying that's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you could say it's good, because it gives us the opportunity to acknowledge this memory and correct it. It's not knowing, and then not knowing what to do about it.
But the damage that's being done,
right?
Because that can't be good for you.
No, it can't be. And I'm with Deb. I like it. The reason I like it, though, is because I don't believe in randomness.
Really?
So now I have a better opportunity to go find out what is going on and why something is malfunctioning or dysregulating, because it's not random. If you
somebody just suddenly didn't get autoimmune thyroid.
Right.
You didn't wake up today and go, you know what, that pesky thyroid. I know we've been together for 40 years, but I'm going after it today.
My immune system's going to attack that thyroid.
No, I cannot live there. That's not possible.
Something happened. Something's going on.
It could have been happening
for... It's not idiopathic, which is our medical word for we don't know why. You have an idiopathic rash. That means we don't know why you have the rash.
Something's gone on for the last several months, years, or decades, and it's finally caught up to you.
You know what? And this makes so much sense to me, because I've been a carpenter for 30 plus years, and I've had men, and we've worked, and I've watched guys beside me go from 50 years old. They all they're working like soldiers, right? Sure. And they hit a wall, they get sick, they get a heart attack, they get cancer, they get disease at about 60.
Blood pressure skyrockets all of a sudden.
And it's gone. And I'm like, stop. So it just didn't happen, right? It took all that whole life to get to that point.
Correct.
And it's time to correct what you have so it doesn't happen.
Correct.
In my mind, I'm always like, well, it's eat right and try to take care of yourself.
Sure.
Them are the Neanderthal ways of doing anything. With what you're saying can really pinpoint and get into that thing and really make some changes that will prevent that from happening.
That is the goal.
Wow.
The other reason I like vitalism is everybody's an N of one or an individual, right? We are all exposed. Let's say we decide to all go to Chernobyl and camp for a month.
Okay.
Probably a poor idea, but let's do it anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to all be exposed to the same toxins in Chernobyl, but we're all going to respond to them very differently. Wow. Just like if we all see a car accident, We're going to respond to that car accident differently.
Got it.
Somebody might cry, somebody might go help, somebody might run away, somebody might have nightmares for the next 6 months, somebody
It's nothing.
might laugh at it. Like,
Yeah.
I hope they don't laugh at it, but
Right.
we all respond to the same exact exposure differently because
and
we
you
have
brought up
different
And
weaknesses.
you brought up a great point this morning that I don't want to forget to say.
Yeah.
But like 2 days ago, my dad was feeling under the weather, right? And so I'm like, how you doing, Dad? You know, he had some congestion. He just didn't feel good. He didn't know where he got it. This is the contagion theory, okay? And maybe church. Did anybody sneeze on you, Dad? Or where, you know? And he's not feeling good. So then I give him some herbs because that's how my naturopathic brain works.
That's great.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to give some echinacea and some golden seal and a little tincture. Take it 3 times a day. Let's see if we can kick this, Dad, right? And it seemed to work, and he was getting better. And then the next day, and so now then Nate and his wife show up, and they're visiting for 2 nights, and Dad's feeling a little better, but still under the weather. And then the next day happens, and my mom is just out for the count, like totally sick, like can't get out of bed, right?
Wow.
And then I told Nate while we were driving here, I was like, and I think I have a little bit of, I can feel it in my throat a little bit. I'm gonna have to rinse my sinuses, and I might have to take some oregano extract and, start treating myself, right? And because I don't want to get this, right? And then Nate's patiently sitting next to me and saying, and I hear what you're saying, Deb, I hear what you're saying, but that may not be what's going on here. I'm like, oh, okay. So
That's
I didn't
cool.
get it from them. He's like, well, what? Maybe you're just resonating, not energetically, electrically, like you're resonating with them because you love them so much and you're connected and they're in your life. And so you just sort of accepted it from them. And it's an interesting thing to say, and you'd think that's totally crazy. No, they're sick and like, but you can, some people, well, because the thing is you cannot, there's people in a room where there's sneezing and sick people, and there's gonna be 3 or 4 people who do not get sick.
Yeah.
They do not get sick at all, not even a little. So you cannot completely believe germ theory. You cannot believe it. And even the terrain theory, in some ways,
It's a little struggle for me.
it's a struggle because in your vitalistic in this particular perspective that you're coming from, because you're like, you can reject it energetically or electrically. You can say, nope, I'm not getting that. That's not who I am, and then turn that away.
But it's also my own buildup of toxins.
That's right. So there's a terrain theory as well, like how susceptible and vulnerable your body is, along with this, how much you're resonating with this other person. And I know that's true because I have a twin sister, an identical twin sister, and weird stuff happens that should not be normal. So I know there's some kind of connection between humans that we don't know anything about because I've experienced it. But also I know that when my dad's shoulder really hurts him really bad, and you're like, oh, well, you can see him hunching. No. Like, I'll be in my bedroom and I'll wake up and I'll have this pain in my shoulder that I never get.
Yep.
And then I'll go downstairs and say, Dad, how's that shoulder right there, that spot? How's that? He's like, oh my God, I pulled it yesterday. It hurt so bad. I always know when my dad's shoulder is hurting him because I resonate with his shoulder pain. And I somehow feel it. And I think that happens with sometimes husbands and wives or people who are really connected. They'll sometimes feel the knee pain. My knee pain it's never hurt. Like, for example, I gave one other example to you in the car, which was I never get seasick. I just do not get seasick. I'm a sailor. I'm a skipper. I don't get seasick. But I went sailing with a significant other once, and Greg, and he got super seasick overnight, and I got seasick.
No, you didn't.
Yes, and I called it empathetic seasickness, right? Empathetic seasickness,
right.
Because I was with him, and
I
was more, and that's the only time in my life I ever got seasick.
God.
So when he said that there might be a resonance issue going on, I just smiled like I am now. Like,
I have done the same thing.
It's
happened to me.
You know what I'm saying? So tell us about how it's happened to you.
What's that?
How has it happened
Oh
to you?
my gosh! I mean, there has been people that same thing, and this don't have to be. I don't have to be connected to them.
Yeah.
I feel like I was talking earlier. I think I'm an open wound. I feel everything all the time, and it's like somebody will tell me that they feel this pain,
and then you're like, oh, I feel it.
and I start feeling it. I mean, my elbow, something. I'm like, stop, man. I mean, I connect like immediately. So I said, no, and then if somebody's really sick around me,
I reject.
I said I push it out of my head. Okay. So in spiritually speaking, I used to know this person that would say, when somebody walk in the room and they're going to say, oh my God, I'm going to get sick, I know for sure. I know I'm going to get sick. Don't speak that into existence.
See, we're on the same wavelength. This is exactly what we're talking about.
And so back when I heard that years ago, I was like, stop being so woo-woo, you know?
Sure.
And it was more spiritual about, like, God doesn't want you to just talk negative about stuff and all that. But now it's a scientific thing that you're bringing in. And it's almost like prayer is what I heard somebody say, so prayer is all about religion and we pray and pray. But there was a scientific fact about prayer.
Sure.
That if you bond enough people together, it's an energy that can be transported across the world.
You need to change the resonance of the room,
and
right?
And change stuff. And they said it was scientific. It wasn't had anything to do with your religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that similar?
Similar, yeah. I think it's similar. That's why I said earlier when Deb was talking, it's about our own toxins. If I'm taking good care of myself, it doesn't matter what type of enclosed space I'm at, or whether I do or don't resonate. If I'm able to get rid of the discharge, to discharge the toxins without creating symptoms, great, I don't need to. The symptoms are only because we've created a toxicity that needs to get out of the body. Symptoms are a sign of something toxic inside and it's trying to discharge. We must discharge. Getting sick is not a negative.
So when you get that drop of blood, I'm going to send you a drop of blood. You're going to...
You should too, because it's
fascinating. I'm going to. I'm like, listen, you're going to get 1 million drops of blood sent to you, okay? So when you get that drop of blood, how do you analyze it? What do you do? And then how do you find things?
So I put it against other things. Again, everything is electrical. It has its own frequency. So we have items that have that frequency. So strep pneumonia has a different frequency than Rocky Mountain spotted fever. That has a different frequency than Aspergillus mold, which has a different frequency from dioxins, which has a different frequency from organophosphate chemicals. Like everything is a different frequency. And we have all these frequencies and we put it against it and we look for an electrical change.
So he has this, from what I remember, this file system with all these samples, thousands of them now.
Wow.
And then he tests your sample, or
analyze
your sample against these things to figure out where
the inhibition is, right? If we want to know... I tease myself. It's easiest to tease oneself, right? So you can't, and never break HIPAA. Needed to treat, I decided to start modifying this some more and wanted to get my thyroid better. And I thought, I'm working out, but I should have more stamina when I'm working out. Like, I've never passed a lung test in my life. This is all really, really weird. Okay, well, I've treated my thyroid before. It's got somewhat better. We can do other things. It's been improved, but never got to where it really needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, I figured out that from myself, radium bromatum was inhibiting the function of my thyroid, titanium was inhibiting the function of my heart, and gadolinium phosphoricum was inhibiting the function of my lungs. So I get those are all 3 metals, get all of those out, and I start to now, within a couple of weeks, again, individuality, I get better a lot faster. Other people might take multiple months or longer. But noticed when I'm working out, this is going better.
No way.
Doesn't mean it's all perfect yet, because once the toxin is out, the body needs to repair. Tiny homes. If there's a fire, depending on how bad the flames are, depends on the damage. I think of the toxin and your symptoms as the flames. Okay. If it just singed the sheetrock, you might just need a few days or a few weeks to make repairs and you go on with life. If those flames burned really hot for months, years, decades, and got down into the studs, into the structure, you might need months to a year to repair.
I got you.
But that's where your own body will do it, but we need to get the fire out before it will even start.
And then you give a protocol of what you need to do that repair work, right?
Yeah.
And would that go back to your protocol?
Mines are different, so that's the whole thing. Is he has a vitalistic approach? So
I don't want to say more. I want to say different.
A different approach. But I'm veering this direction. This is why I get along with Dr. Nate great. But like for example, I would like for myself even and my father, I blended golden seal tincture with echinacea with a little licorice root as a synergizer. I said, okay, Dad, take 3 dropperfuls 3 times a day, and let's see if we can kick this. he has been talking about how he's found even just diluting the herb in water in a dilution.
So I would super dilute her herbs, and I would give her dad 5 drops instead of 3 droppers.
Okay, so a diluted form that he's found works even better. And that's fascinating, and I'm going to try it. Let me tell
Is
you.
that more in homeopathy?
Not technically, no. So there's a little definition term there, but no.
Because it's not like cures like. We're not taking a poison or something that causes that symptom
Right.
Okay.
and then giving it to the person in a diluted form. That's homeopathy, like cures
This would be eclectic herbalism.
Yes.
So eclectic herbalists, I'm not saying they're not around, but they were really popular back in the 1920s and 30s. They had their own herb companies that only made eclectic herb formulas and tinctures, but they're all used on very dilute levels. Yes, there are some herbs I use that if you look them up online, will tell you never even look at them, right? I use a lot of aconite or belladonna or hyoscyamus.
Which are considered
Poisonous,
I've
which
seen
they
that.
are.
Just did the research before you guys got here. I've seen that on there. Yep.
If you take my tincture bottle of hyoscyamus and drink it, you're going to the hospital.
Got it.
But I'll use in a 2 or 4 ounce dropper bottle, I might only use 4 or 5 drops. That's in all of these other
whole
herbs and
thing.
water.
Wow.
So we have to dilute them out. So they work both on that very physical level because they're an herb.
Okay.
They also work on what I would call the immaterial or quantum level because they're super diluted as well. So it kind of works on both levels. I believe that illness begins, kind of like we talked about PTSD, it begins on that immaterial quantum level. You know, you started getting sick 20 years ago from what? Well, an exposure to gadolinium that got stuck in your lungs that then continued to stay there. We never got out, so I've never passed a lung test. Well, now I can get the gadolinium out because I figured out it was there, and I can do now support, so my lung, I can maybe pass a lung test.
Wow.
But it's that immaterial, the antibiotics. There's no way there's a material molecule potentially left, but the body's reacting as if it's still there. So those herbs, what I've been seeing with the infections when I brought up, you get a strep throat 30 or 40 years ago. Yeah, you probably cleared it, but that doesn't mean it's cleared everywhere in the body. That doesn't mean...
How does it
Water
stay?
has memory. Water has memory.
Oh, because of the water
And we are water, right? So we
Well, and the bacteria can live other places as well.
That's true.
Just because we get rid of it on your tonsils doesn't mean it's not other places in your body.
It'll hide and embed, just like people get the shingles. It's like in the dorsal root of the ganglia.
it's been hidden in there for years.
And it's probably been
flares
active, you
out.
just have never paid attention because we can ignore the symptom or we blame something else. Even getting sick, going back to what I said, getting sick is normal and healthy. Strep throat. You initially get symptoms because the tissue in your tonsils start to decompose and get dead. So you start to react from the tonsils dying. Not the tonsils, but some of the tissue dying. So that's your first symptom. But then your body has a really cool response, which is to bring bacteria into the area to eat the dead tissue. Now, we're still only responding to the dying tissue, but now because the bacteria is there, they have a waste byproduct. Their waste byproduct is also toxic to us. So now we start to respond to 2 things, the dying tissue and the toxic byproduct from the bacteria. So you take your antibiotics and you get rid of the bacteria.
The good and the bad.
We've got rid of 1 out of 2 symptoms. So that's why it still takes us 10 days, 2 weeks to get better, because we still have to resolve the dead, dying tissue that's around the tonsils. But we've stopped part of the process, where the joke in my world is, how do you get over the cold? You have to have the cold. You have to have the common flu. That's how we get rid of the toxins. We have to discharge the toxins. So I want to support the tissue, but also get rid of the bacteria, right? So there's a compromise there of supporting the body's good, healthy response, but also lessening the symptoms so that you can function better. But that doesn't mean you don't rest. It means we just don't have to feel as bad.
Yeah. God, in this world that we live in, it's so toxic. I'm just gonna be like you.
You don't want to know how toxic.
I know. Maybe I do. You know what? Because I feel as though I try
You'll
to
find
live.
everything. Like he'll be like, okay, here's your list of things that your
Wow.
blood spot, reacted to. Or
I joke. Flint, Michigan, right? I'm old
yeah.
enough to remember Flint, Michigan
Yeah, the
debacle.
water.
Yeah. There's no city that's got cleaner water than Flint, Michigan. That's a joke.
No way.
Maybe not quite on some of the toxins, but Hey, go and look up, was it in 2019, there was a report that a building in Detroit fell into the Detroit River. Unfortunately, it was containing uranium from World War II. So now that uranium got put into the Detroit River.
So all of our water is
Contaminated with something. Gadolinium. I've never had any imaging done in my life. So I'm like, well, how do I get gadolinium? Well, there's reports as early as 1996, which most, not all, but most states had gadolinium in their water, both ground and surface water. By 2006, Lake Erie had a toxicity of gadolinium, and I grew up 2 blocks away from Lake Erie.
I did too.
So the toxins are everywhere. So
I did too.
I've said this to a few folks, and they get, well, I'm just gonna go die. We're just, how is this? This is depressing. I'm like, for me, because I don't believe in randomness, this is comforting, because now I can find that problem.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer, hey, I have this issue. This is the problem. I may not be able to tell you where it came but I know you have it, and it's everywhere. Most states, but I'm picking on Michigan because of this particular documentary. Most of the farms in central Michigan are toxic with PFAS chemicals.
What kind?
PFAS, forever chemicals.
Really?
They all are, even the organic farms.
Forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals. All the soil is toxic with PFAS. They've had so many dumps and spills, and then some of those spills get into other things that then farmers are encouraged to use, and we don't understand the downstream side effects that now all of a sudden we, spread all this slurry across the farm fields to make them better, but it also now puts forever chemicals in.
Mm-hmm. Listen, when I was a boy in Flat Rock, Michigan, right near the Lake Erie, so they would spray for mosquitoes, and us kids
would run it.
We'd run behind the truck.
Yeah,
it's fog, and we're running through it and all this stuff. Like, how stupid.
Yeah.
And that stuff could still be inside, somehow done damage.
And for you may have no symptoms from it that you can perceive, and other people, going back to individuality, could have gotten cancer 5 years ago from it because we're individuals.
I remember growing up in Los Angeles County, and we'd hear this noise in the sky coming towards us, and it would be this row of helicopters that would go over the whole city, I guess, the whole county, and drop malathion. It was just malathion spraying for bugs and stuff because it was attacking the citrus fruits, and so they were just. And so we just, it'd be sprayed. And like some people, if you didn't have a garage to put your car in, my dad would get upset because little spots would be on the car, so we'd have to throw like a canvas over the car, and then we'd all run in the house. But like we got sprayed, just blanketed with malathion multiple times. I knew what the sound was of the malathion helicopters coming. So
the world's just toxin. So the other thing I say is in health and medicine, 1 + 1 never ever equals 2. Don't not do the right things. Do the right things because that's going to help.
Right.
But just because you do the quote unquote right things doesn't mean you have the right outcome because the world is toxic.
Perfect.
So like we always say the bottom of our therapeutic order to remove the obstacles to cure, and I guess from a vitalistic perspective especially, that means even remove the electrical characteristics of the toxins that might still be inhibiting your ability to heal
and
yourself.
Some of those chemicals probably still are in the body, and that's why you have to
remove those before
work
you
the
can
wording.
Start then building your foundation and then
Physical and or as if.
Yeah.
So those things that you had in your lungs, how did you treat those?
I treat them with remedies, what are called isodes and sarcodes, and so it's getting the chemical out, and then in order to treat the lung, I use what are called sarcodes along with what are called oligominerals. Oligominerals normally are used at about 100 parts per million. I use them around 1 or 5 parts per million.
You breathe it in?
No,
for your lungs?
drops.
Just drops.
2 drops.
So it's very easy.
2 little itty bitty drops twice a day.
And you've had some great results with some people, right? Can you give us a few like general examples without naming names of some successes?
The joke, right, amongst everybody, I even saw a meme about this the other day of, the woman always has the super cold feet. Don't put your feet on me at night because your feet are cold. Well, within about a month, this lady's feet, the guy's like, oh, your feet aren't cold anymore. Okay, because we're getting the toxins out of her thyroid's starting to function better. It's her body temperature is warming up. Body temperature should be 98.6. If it's not, it's telling us something.
Wow.
So in her case, with 2 drops twice a day, her feet are warming up because it's getting rid of the toxins and stimulating the organ back to function.
Wow. Is that not cool?
Pretty cool.
Got a lady, calprotectin is a lab test that will be run to see general inflammation in the intestines. It's a broad catch-all, right? Don't quote me on the normal, but I believe the max normal number is 50. Could be off, but say it's 50. Her results came back in the 400s.
Wow.
So they're like, okay, this is a problem. We need to put you on, at least this 1 or 2 medications. We might even need to consider, like, do we need to cut something out? Like, this is a problem.
Let's do
If
surgery.
we don't,
Let's cut the colon out.
if we don't
That'll
get
solve
this
the problem.
changed, we got to do something. Within 3 weeks, her calprotectin's down to 29. So I checked calprotectin on her body. It was actually being produced because of 3 different bacteria, and there might have been a parasite, but whatever. A couple of infections, we're resolving the infections, and her calprotectin's down, and the doctor's like, oh, well, maybe we were just wrong before.
Yeah, had to be a faulty test.
Well, then why would you recommend the medication right away if we assuming it's a faulty test? That's my struggle.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. We all make mistakes. I'm not saying that can't
That's
make
a little
mistakes.
scary that it
But-
could have been a mistake, and then anyway.
But let's not jump to something. Let's do something
Get
else.
a second opinion and take the test twice before cutting your intestines out.
So,
Wow.
because it's about stimulating the body and getting the toxins out.
So, and of course, you always got to watch what you say. Hey, I can cure this. I can cure that. That's, but
We try to stay away from that word.
right. So what do we do?
Only the person themselves can heal themselves.
So what do we do about some severe diseases?
It's both individual, but also it's got to be choices and changes. I mean, the reality is there's got to be some lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that somebody needs to eat 100% organic. That's not practical for a lot of people, and I'm not asking that to be done.
Right.
But there are other changes that can be done. For me, again, because of the way I work, the way I think, it is about finding the toxins and getting them out, or even doing other things that stimulate the bodies who maybe if we can't even get them all out because of a lot of things, there's other ways you can do to still feel better. We're working differently and you're getting results.
Right. Yeah.
I've never asked somebody else to work like I work. That's not fair
Yeah.
on anybody. I know folks that have gotten great results with other doctors, and we have a same philosophy, but we work differently.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still getting results. This is just how I work.
So I think it's such a neat combination of taking your diagnosis from the energy part of it and applying
Electrical.
electrical. Wow.
And the reason I say electrical is because it's measurable.
Conversation.
Yeah.
For me, this is important. If you say certain wording, some people turn off. If you go up to somebody or you go to a crowd and go, there's an energy here. Some people are going to completely tune you out for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
Some people think that you want them to go out and hug a tree.
Yeah.
Other people have no idea what you're talking about. Some people are like, who turned the electricity off?
Right.
Yeah.
But electricity, it's measurable. I can measure your pH.
It's scientific fact.
It is scientific.
You measured my
pH.
I know you gave me something when we looked at my dried blood under the microscope, which was not the blood spot, but and so then you gave me a homeopathic remedy. But you tested my pH of my saliva first.
Correct.
We saw that it was acidic. I think I can't remember.
Well, probably not, but on that side, it was probably lower
One way
than
or
normal.
the other, and then he gave me the remedy, and then we waited a certain
10 minutes.
period of time, 10 minutes, very quick, and we tested my saliva again, and it was completely different.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because there's electrical potential in that remedy, and your body is so
Responds
everything
to
is
it.
either
And
an
that was
electrical.
measurable. It was a pH meter, very sensitive one that could detect a change in my pH.
Everything either
Like,
donates electricity or it's an electrical vampire.
I didn't drink water. I didn't do anything. I just sat there for 10 minutes.
That simple.
Gosh, I have a good friend of mine, and he called me the other day. We were talking, and we were at a job site, and he said he had a good friend that's got a death sentence for cancer. Doctor told him he got 6 weeks.
Okay.
I was like, wow, what do you do? I thought about Wayne and what can you do? And is that possible to help anybody like that? I mean, that's that the house burnt down, right?
Right.
Like you're talking about. Now we need a whole construction site.
Right.
And it's all
Everybody's
individual.
different. It's all individual. You know, the other thing is, yes, as much as I am against pharmaceuticals, it does not mean they don't have their time and place.
Okay.
Do I think pharmaceuticals are vitalistic? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean they don't have their place, right? I use this case a lot. When I was still in Seattle working, a mom brought her daughter in. Was pretty sure by the time the mom brought the daughter in, she probably had a UTI for about 10 days, which is about 7 days too long.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, wasn't really very clear on some symptoms. So I said to the mom, look, I trust my medicine. I know my stuff works. But at 10 days, I have greater concerns. She goes, I really don't want to do antibiotics. Okay, but my comfort level right now says I got you 24 hours. Here's what I'm going to recommend. Do these things. If tomorrow afternoon there's no changes, you're going to the walk-in clinic, and they're going to culture it right away. They're going to give you the exact right antibiotic, and we're going to resolve this because we need to get her functioning, because my medicine isn't always slow, but it can be depending on the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you were even talking about yesterday or the day before. You're talking about a client that's current-ish that was having seizures.
Sure.
And they decided to do steroids, right, to try to reduce brain swelling, and you were, same idea. It's not, but something had to be done immediately and then we can then deal with it, right? So, and that's how I feel too. Is I'm not against drugs. I'm not even against regular Western medicine. I think there's a place for it, and we need it for when there's damage control that must be done.
Sure.
It needs to be done. I've had people come and talk to me because they want to help with their, increase their heart health or reduce their risk of heart disease and those kinds of things. And I've said, you need to go to the hospital right now because I am very worried about you having a heart attack. Like right now. Like you walk down these stairs and you go to the hospital. Wow. Like I've had that happen. And then they've even thanked me and said, yep, you were right. That he was on the borderline of having a heart attack. And I could see the symptoms. So in that case, I was super happy that, he could go to the hospital, right? Because I'm not the person who can help him at that moment. And then I've been working with him for the next year to try to now get his heart health better so he's not on that precarious point,
Yeah. It's like a snap femur. You got to fix it.
I joke with people, if you come into my office and your bone's sticking out of your skin, don't even talk to me. Turn around and walk away. That's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is not to put your bone back in.
Yes.
My job is to make sure that heals really fast and stronger. When I fractured my foot, yes, I got an x-ray, but then they're like, well, you might need to be referred for surgery. I'm like, I'm good. I'm going home.
Yeah.
I went home. I treated my own foot, and it feels fine.
Yeah.
Now, there was a bump for several months, but that bump's gone away.
Yeah.
Because the body knows what to do.
I think I'm thinking, looking at the medical field, and of course I've researched a little bit, and how our medicine's so influenced by our society and about big pharma, and it's just out of whack because doctors that want to be medical doctors, they should have your all's knowledge mixed with that Western medicine, right?
Yeah.
But when you get capitalism, you get money, you get all this stuff involved, it gets anything, when you get that greed into it, it throws it all off.
Yeah. Well, and the average, again, I know there's a spectrum of all doctors, whether they be conventional or vitalistic. Right? But the average MD appointment's like 7 minutes or less.
I know.
You can't learn about the person.
Yeah.
You can't.
Do you know Casey Means? Heard of her?
I know the name, yeah.
Well, was a I don't count a doctor, like a world renowned. She's only 36, but she was a world renowned doctor, and she just stopped being I think it was a neuroscientist or a brain doctor. She just stopped because she said, this is not right. I'm seeing all this happening due to just what you're saying, due to people not having a good health program in their life, and they're eating it. They're causing all this to happen. She said, I'm not healing anyone. No. I want to heal people. And so she's been before Congress and all this stuff, So there are doctors that are now starting to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to help people, and I want to do what you're healing them. I love that. You're healing instead of I'm taking a pill.
Yep.
And we all know taking that pill is the worst thing in the world. Like you said, if you need it to get ready.
I just think it's two different mindsets, right? There's two different mindsets. there's the damage control.
Right.
We need to get you, triage you, and get you so you don't have a heart attack right now.
Yeah.
And then there's the prevention and like
long term.
Instead of suppressing symptoms, actually trying to rebalance your whole body to a health picture.
Yeah.
And those, it's like, why would you call the electrician to do plumbing work and vice versa?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that one's better than the other. They're both needed. You need the electrician and the plumber. You need them both.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think there's room for all of us. Even like us, we have approach things differently, even as naturopaths. But you need both of us, because maybe I can't get anywhere with someone, and there's many clients I'm like,
sure.
I haven't gotten very far, and I might now be like, okay, you need to go see Dr. Nate, like, let's get you do a blood spot and see if we can make some progress, because there's some kind of obstacle to cure here going on, and me telling you to take this supplement and that supplement is not doing it.
And if the medical field could work with you guys too in unison,
Great.
oh my, that's a perfect world, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. And I don't do well with flowcharts, right? The average MD, well, this, then this, if this, then that.
Yeah.
The algorithm, it does go back to the individual. Which is hard because most studies are on a massive scale. And even if it's only 5 people, they're extrapolating. Or if you've ever heard the term herd immunity, that's been passed around a lot the last few years.
That's why that's the premise of why people need to be vaccinated. Is if you get enough people vaccinated, regardless of the kind of vaccine or what you're even vaccinating for, you can get herd immunity, which means then a small portion of the population, won't have to get vaccinated because the rest of them
protect it.
But in that level from an epidemiological perspective, so biostatistics, this is getting into like large sample sizes, depending on the virulence of the pathogen and what it is and all kinds of different things, and the contagion and the transmissibility, you can actually calculate out how many people in the population need to be vaccinated to create what's called herd immunity, right? If it's super, like let's say the pathogen spreads, within 2 minutes, right? Well, that's very virulent. It's a very transmissible and very contagious. Or let's say it spreads, it takes 3 days. In some ways, that's worse because people spread it without knowing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So all these factors go into how many people have to be vaccinated to protect the whole population. What's the minimum number to prevent it from going out of control? Does that make sense? And so that's herd immunity.
Can't believe in herd immunity. I'm not a cow. Do we live in the same place? No. Do we eat the same diet? No. Do we have the same exposures? Maybe I could argue yes, but we experience those exposures differently.
Right.
So the idea of herd immunity is this: we're a herd in the same field, in the same exposures, in the same food.
We're all sort of the same.
And we're all sort of the same. We're not. We're not the same. We're just not.
Yeah, it is based on, if you had, let's say, 100 people in a room, because everything's numbers with, because I have my master's in public health, so this is what we're taught. Like, if everybody's this, and, it's all numbers based. So, if 2 people are sick, how long, if they're talking in that corner of the room, how long will it take before every single person in the room gets sick? And so it's regardless of your terrain of your body and how healthy it is, it's regardless of whether or not you're an alcoholic and on drugs and this person's only eaten organic their whole life. None of that matters. Everyone is considered exactly the same, and then how long is it going to take to spread? And the assumption is, okay, it takes an average of 2 minutes or whatever, 10 minutes to then it'll go, and this person will spread it to that person, and then it's double and double and double again and double again, and so it's all based on the assumption of all of us being the same and having the same susceptibility, the same vulnerability to it.
But there has been vaccines that stop smallpox and the whole. I'm sure you get,
That is a whole.
That's another discussion.
An entire other video.
Gosh.
So most of the big outbreaks, like if you want to take something like diphtheria or some of the typhoid outbreaks in England and London, is more famous back in the turn of the 1900s.
Yeah.
Once they cleaned up sanitation, illnesses stopped before vaccines ever available.
That's right. You can look at the statistics of that.
It's the sanitary problem. That's why stuff started to show up in, was it San Francisco? Typhoid showed up a few years ago because too many people were using the sidewalk to use the bathroom. So it's a sanitary problem.
Yeah, you can see the numbers for that too, which is sort of astonishing. Like the rates of these outbreaks, you'll see it goes up and up and up, whatever it is. Like kids with iron lung and all that, and then you'll see it drop, and it drops before the vaccine's in place. In other words, the downward trend was already happening before they started vaccinating the population. So that's a whole nother controversial
Wow, that's
topic,
awesome. But it gives you validity in what you're doing and
Well,
understanding.
It gives you pause.
Yes, but I'm going to struggle with validity just because the joke with statistics, right? 99% of the time you can make statistics say whatever you want.
That's right. Yep.
Right? So it depends on how you report numbers.
Yeah.
It really depends on how you report numbers. And so what numbers do you believe? What do we understand? But it also means that I now have to take responsibility for myself. And this isn't a blanket statement on anybody in America, but we're shifting to your responsibility now for my health.
Right. So in other words, I think most of us are trained that we outsource our health to our doctor. Like, oh, you get a cold, I got to go to the doctor. I broke my toe, I got to go to the doctor. I have a stomachache, I got to go to the doctor. And we've outsourced our health instead of saying, what can I do now? Like, what can I do, right? Yeah. And like, we can do a lot, as you know, working with me. We can do a lot at home to keep ourselves really healthy and less vulnerable to things that are going around. You can make a big difference.
Man, so with your practice, it sounds like to me that if you can do it, you really don't even need to know me.
No, but it's nice. But no.
But so I could send you my blood, or whatever you want me to send you. You could completely analyze it, set me up on what I need to do to get better, and we can work in that manner.
I believe so.
And change my health just from you looking at that from a distance.
Spot, yeah.
Okay. All right. So
mission's on, huh?
Yeah, it is. This is massive, and when I think about, you're not being. I don't know the questions to ask you, like the education that you have, the mindset that you have. I'm not, we're not tapping into that right now. We're not tooting your horn, I think, the way it could really be tooted. You're a scientist, you're a doctor, the mind that you have is just, I'm in awe of you guys, really, for what you've taken on and what you know. She's able to just
talk.
Tell.
That's what I'm good at.
She's good.
Doing
research.
And
I can tell.
He's doing research.
Yeah, I can tell. You're a researcher. So what I want to tell all the folks here is that I'm going to do this. You're saying that we could send you our blood, right? And people from all over the country, the world, could send you the blood. You could give this remedy, this protocol. So if I do that, is there a booklet you're going to send me, like all your research, or what do you send back to me? Or
I send back results. So
okay.
I start with food. So there's a food result.
Okay.
But step one, would that be you sending like a little envelope to them with a kit with a little and the directions on prick your finger here and like put your blood spot on that little, your blood, drop of blood on this little piece of paper.
Okay.
And do you do several pieces of paper? I think you did.
Just one. Yeah, just a piece of paper. And so I use that to check the food. Then I can check the other things.
They mail it back in.
Mail it back in. I run my analyses. The other stuff, the toxin aspect, it comes down more to an appointment because I need to know where I'm going. Because it could take me a day or two to literally run everything I have.
At least,
sure.
Yeah.
And although that's important, you do not want to try to clear everything at once. That would be a horrendous idea.
Right. Okay.
Because depending on what we find, yes, it's all very gentle, but at the same time, the body can only take so much cleansing at a time.
So a plan.
A plan. So it's a process. I look at the symptoms first, not because I want to treat the symptoms, but they're telling me what organs to look at. Mm-hmm. We get those organs functioning, and even if there's some organs that aren't involved, I always check and treat those because they're important in elimination and toxin removal. So we get those things functioning first, and then we can start working through phases of going, okay, now we're going to work on these chemicals or these this body system or whatever is going on, because
So they mail it in, and
Yeah.
then you do your thing for a week or whatever, because you have other people, and then do you schedule like a Zoom conference or something?
yeah, because I need to know what's going on. So an appointment,
Yeah.
understand where I'm checking. We go with the food results because it is mind-boggling, and I don't
Sure.
force anybody to do the food. I see personal results. Individuals. Some people see results within
You're the
weeks,
doctor.
and
I'm
other
gonna
people
do what you tell
see,
me.
not so much. I joke with this one guy. He has lost 20 pounds without trying from just avoiding his food.
Yeah.
And he's all excited. I'm like, look, man, that's great, but time out. Like, don't go saying this is a weight loss, because
Yeah.
your wife's now calling me, and I cannot promise her she's going to lose 20 pounds. We're individuals, and not everybody needs to lose 20 pounds. Like, this is your issue
Yeah.
in your life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had results. I have a lady who within 2 months, all of her joint pain went away because she avoided her food. Well, that does not mean avoiding your food makes everybody's joint pain go away.
Yes.
We're individuals. But in her case, great. I used to wear glasses. I don't wear glasses anymore, or contacts.
That's
Stop.
crazy.
My
isn't it?
eyesight got better.
Tell me about that.
Yeah,
I took
I
my
worked-
food out.
You did what?
I took my food intolerance out. That's it.
The potatoes.
That's-
That's it.
I took
Because
the
now
potato
he has
out of my diet.
vision. No contacts and glasses.
Now, does
I
that
can't see
mean
worth a crap.
now does that mean everybody's eyesight get better? No.
But it did for him.
But it did for me. Now, it
Please tell
took
me
about a year and a half, 2 years. It wasn't that quick, right? The body takes time to heal.
That's awesome.
I had that fire go down the foundation, and I needed time. And at that time, I was only avoiding food. I was still in school at the time, and so I wasn't doing other things. But it got better.
Wow. I've experienced that with my eyes. Says because I'm older now, 64.
It's not old, but keep going.
But my eyes were not as good back years ago, and I thought
So
I'm
there's
gonna.
hope for me.
Yes.
Yes, I guess. We're individual. And that changed my diet, my whole life, and all this stuff. And I've noticed, most people got glasses my age or contacts or something, and I still
At
don't.
my rate, I'm not going to be able to see anything
Oh,
right
God.
now at 64.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I've found the effects of food. I really have, and that will it'll change my eyesight.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
It, And again, the food for me is about blood. Yes, people can have GI, stomach, bowel complaints from a food.
Yeah.
But for me, food intolerance equals blood.
Inflammation.
Really?
Inflammation in the blood. And so that inflammation deposits
Okay.
wherever the body's weakest.
Yep, and I think this is like we were talking about my liver and all
Yeah,
that stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've been having some real time with food. You got me taking hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, just raise your stomach acid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she said take 1. You don't feel it, then take 2. If you don't feel it, take 3. If you don't feel it, and I'm at 3 and I don't still feel nothing. I'm like, I need to take about a handful of stuff. I'm like,
we got some balancing to do.
so I got some
There
stuff
might be
going
another
on.
approach, though. There might be another approach, the Dr. Nate approach, right? The
This is
vitalistic
so.
approach.
You know what? Like, it's so
It
exciting.
might be worth trying another
Yeah.
approach. Yeah.
It's so exciting that we can do this remotely, that you can see so much of it, and maybe like I said, we had to do a Zoom and talk like that, but you can have an entire practice at a remote place and look at all this. I know you probably would like to eventually maybe physically meet up, but
It
you
is
don't
nice.
have to.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I want to do this.
All right.
I want to do it, and I want to. We're going to get your information on here, and I really think that people send this in. You're going to be able to tell them and give them, like when she does my blood work, she gives me like 50-page report and all that. So, is this going to be a printed out thing? If I give you my blood, are you going to? How do you relay back to me what I need to do? Is there a protocol? My foods?
I'm the more the overwhelming approach. I think
I'm probably the underwhelming approach.
he likes
Yeah.
to distill it down to the essence. I think I'm like, here, 28,000 pages. Just read this. No.
So,
Right.
to some degree, it is a little simpler only because of the method, which is to say,
okay, yeah.
Using myself again for that example, thyroid, it would say, okay, thyroid is underfunctioning because of this problem, whether it be a chemical, a metal, or deficiency of a mineral, or an infection.
Okay.
We checked liver. The liver is underfunctioning because of this deficiency, and I'll know exactly what deficiency it is, or this toxicity of a metal or a chemical, or this infection. So it is simplified only because The answer is simple. And so there's...
Well, it's definitely not going to hurt anything to try.
There's not a lot of explanation because it just is, this is causing this.
But then you'll say, take this.
So I formulate
whatever.
it. I formulate all my own stuff.
You formulate, and you'll send back me things that I need to, like the
2 drops twice a day. And the dropper bottle's done, the infections and chemicals are gone.
So then how long, if I do that, how long would it be? Do I prick my finger again and send it to you and you check it again? Or how do you know that I'm getting better?
We continue to check samples, and again, this is that individuality.
I love this.
I feel better without even rechecking because I respond that quick.
Yeah.
Some people we need to check, but I also know that when the bottle's empty in about 8 or 9 weeks, that those toxins, those infections are gone. Now, doesn't mean every symptom is gone because it goes back to the flames, and we need to resolve some symptoms while we do repairs, right? We need to air out the house to get all the smoke smell out, and we need to do the repairs. So symptoms might still linger, but we need the toxin out. And the toxins just take about 2 months.
And removing the obstacle to cure.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the pyramid.
So you said you start with food. Do you tell them what foods to stay away from?
What one food, it becomes difficult with the food industry. So my paperwork describes how to find that food in the food industry. So potato for me, I can't have salted butter. I can't have corn chips that have the word salt on the packaging, because the word salt in the food industry on any packaged food, even organic canned green beans, if they say salt, it means potato.
No way.
Because the food industry iodizes the salt. No, I can't taste the iodine, but some people can, so they put potato sugar in to cover up the taste. If one is dairy intolerant, so a lot of nut milks, oat milk and almond milk, not all of them, but a lot of them are actually dairy. They have a calcium phosphate, and that calcium phosphate actually comes from a dairy source. If it's got B12 in it, it actually comes grown on potato medium, so it's potato. If you have a fruit intolerance, it's vitamin A. Most of those things have vitamin A from palm oil, which now make that product fruit, potato, and dairy.
Wow.
So you have to read the labels. So my paperwork gives the code words to look for, and then random hidden sources.
No way. So I have a code word. I read my label. He said to stay away from this.
Correct.
14-letter word.
Correct.
But I know that when you did me, I think it was potato for me, and I was phase one for me was just stay away from what
potato.
I know to be a potato. Right, and then I upped it a little, and we started making sure that there was chips or something. Like, we don't eat chips, we eat corn chips, but it was just stay away from the blatant potato chips and the potatoes and the mashed potatoes and the sweet potato. Like, stay away from the blatant potatoes. That was a good step one, because that's hard enough.
That's hard enough.
It's everywhere, and then you can start even going deeper.
Like I'm a little weird. I avoid Ziploc baggies.
The what?
Ziploc baggies, because they're potato. So
Ziploc baggies?
if I put food inside of a Ziploc bag,
potato starch.
we're not
I
sure.
use them all the time.
Yeah, but if you're not potato intolerant, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's something going on. What? Oh my gosh.
It's the tip of the iceberg here.
Probiotics, all of your probiotics that are healthy.
Don't be scaring people now, Dr. Nate.
Some of them are dairy.
The what?
They're dairy. So if you're dairy intolerant, you got to be careful what probiotics you use, because
almost all, I guess, the lactobacillus species, they grow in a dairy medium.
correct.
I think.
So
Yeah.
cashew yogurt's a dairy alternative yogurt, but they usually use the lactobacillus as their active culture, which now makes that cashew yogurt dairy.
If they grew the lactobacillus culture using a dairy medium.
Correct.
And you won't know any of this until you look at the electrocharge of your blood and you know what you got to stay away from or not.
Correct.
Goes through his analysis.
Oh my God.
It was enlightening for me, because we did it all for me when I was there a year ago.
Yeah, folks
Even
that are egg intolerant.
The pH.
So a lot of wines tend to be egg. They use egg whites in the wine industry to clarify.
It's a clarifier, absolutely.
As a clarifier, which I am not in the wine industry. If I butchered that description at all, that's just how I describe it.
Yeah.
But
that's how I understand it.
so if somebody's egg intolerant, they have to be careful what wine they drink. And I only learned that from 2 patients who used to work in the wine industry, and they both happen to be egg. And in separate weeks, they're like, oh, by the way, so does that mean I can't have wine? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's wine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, we use egg whites. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, as a clarifier, yeah.
Oh no, I have to
Oh.
rethink everything.
Goodness. That's so exciting, though.
It's a lot of fun, but it's super
Yeah.
frustrating. So I have to be honest,
It can
every
overwhelm.
once in a while, I get angry enough that I'm like, I'm going to be an airitarian. I'm only going to eat air because I'm so angry.
I was thinking the same thing.
And
What
then
can I eat?
about 2 hours later, I get hungry and I go eat.
I know.
I'm just being honest. It's frustrating, but personally, I feel that much better. I don't care. And that doesn't mean
So, how far you go with avoiding
Yeah.
potato, if you're going to avoid Ziploc bags, or you're going to have to make your own choices on how you feel. But
Yeah.
definitely at the beginning, eliminating the food itself, I think you should automatically start feeling better.
Are you a proponent of trying to get all the toxins out of your home, like your air you breathe, the lights we got on, the flooring, the cleaners, the chemicals we use on our skin? Are you?
It's individualized, right? Again, it is,
it's
you do
endless,
the
isn't
best.
it?
You can't go down every rabbit hole.
You
You'll
can't.
go mad.
You
You
will.
just
I know.
cannot. So you do what you can do and you move on with the rest.
Yeah.
If it's producing anxiety, you better stop.
Right.
So it cannot
Right,
produce
right.
anxiety. You know, if I travel, I will have potato. But I also will limit it as much as I can
Yeah.
because it's just that hard to avoid.
Exactly.
If I'm traveling in an airport, every restaurant in that airport is going to have potato in their food. It's a guarantee because they're all going to use iodized salt. Now, it depends on how long my flight is. I might bring snacks with me or I might fast.
Yeah.
But if it's like, no, I really need food, I'm going to make the best choices I can with the food options I have.
Yeah.
And if I feel bad, oh well. Or if I go to a party, I'm not going to tell my host, oh, I can't have potato. They won't know what that means.
Yeah.
So when the mashed potatoes come by, I'll keep them passed. If the green beans come by, but I know they have salted butter on them, I'm going to take a double dose of green beans and I'm going to smile and I'm going to enjoy the community and fellowship
Yeah.
and I'm going to move on with life because it doesn't matter.
Right.
So there's a balance. There has to be a balance.
He ate dinner at my house, and I'm sure that I fed
I'm not
him
going to
all
answer
stuff.
that. But all that to say is
Yeah.
that comes back
I
to
tried those zucchini, but anyway.
the environment. You do the best you can.
Wow.
You know, not everybody's going to be able to afford to strip all the carpet out of their house. That's not practical for everybody,
know.
so you don't do it. Not everybody can move because their house has mold in it. You remediate what you can, you clean what you can, you strengthen the body so the body
Yeah,
has a
that's the
higher
key, is
resilience.
strengthening it.
Vitality,
Yeah.
right? The vitality is what makes it so we don't have to.
Man.
We have to function in the world, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think, but what with you, that if I send my blood in, you're going to tell me, hey, your remedy, what to get rid of, and use the things you send me. And then I think that it seems like it's an ongoing thing because we're bombarded by so many toxins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to want to send you, hey, how am I doing? Let's check on
Sure.
again. It's like every 6 months, send you a sample and say, am I on something? Have I been exposed to something? So something, like she checked me, I'm off a little bit. Some of my things are happening. I'm like, okay. So I've been exposed to something.
Sure.
Or somebody. Sometimes we gotta get
Stop
rid of-
resonating with people.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to get rid of a person out of our life, right? And but there's things that I think that it's an ongoing check because of the environment is so
Sure.
toxic.
Yeah,
Man.
to some degree it is. Also, what I've been finding with the treatments, again, individualized, but they also train the body to work better. So, like, I treated myself for glyphosates, Roundup, for conventional language,
Yeah.
almost 3 years ago at this point. I guarantee I've been exposed to glyphosate in my food multiple
Right.
times in the last 3 years.
Since then, yep, okay. So
It's in everything.
Do you continue to do the same?
No, I don't need to. I've checked my blood, and it is still clear. Because
No
it's
way.
starting to train the body.
It's
Now-
almost like a vaccine.
Almost. It's just no side effects. But again,
Wow.
individuals. They're going to be an
Really?
individual. That doesn't mean because I treat myself for strep pneumonia that I can never get strep
Right,
pneumonia
right,
again.
right.
There's a little compromise in there.
Will you be able to have potatoes if you continue to heal your body from that? Would that
I don't know
is
yet.
it just a tox? Okay.
We don't know.
Everybody's
So
different.
the food intolerance started back, I'm going to butcher the date, but I want to say it was the late 1940s, but I could be off by 10 years either way.
Thinking about the Carroll method,
Yeah.
right? Okay, yeah.
So, it's been around for 80-ish years. No
The
one's
food what?
the food intolerance.
This
So the
particular
the food-
method that we of food, and because it's not the normal like.
It's not an IgG. I'm not looking for an immune
It's not
response.
the blood test that
Okay.
a conventional medicine doctor would do to say you are allergic to potatoes. This is using a vitalistic approach called the Carroll method.
God.
And so it's been around for about 80 years. We haven't found a cure for it yet, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep looking. Doesn't mean, but we also know it was around before a lot of the chemicals. So we're not sure, but we're here where we're at, and we manage what we can until we keep going.
So Thanksgiving's coming up, and every Thanksgiving since I was, gosh, in my early 30s, I think, oh, here's all this wonderful food, and I die. It's my worst
Every
day.
time?
It's my worst day.
In terms of digestion.
Oh, I mean, I can see my stomach actually swell up.
Keep
I gotta
taking
unbuckle
those.
my pants.
Keep taking those hydrochloric tabs.
I'm like,
It's
what
poor
do I
stomach
do?
acid.
Yeah, like I'm gonna have you don't, and you want to socialize, you want to be with people. I mean, I've been.
Having proper stomach acid is important, and I think it takes a while to dial that in for people. My approach is different than his, but I honestly believe that he's re-inspired me coming to visit here from Kentucky. That I want to try, because I have some tough nuts to crack here with some of my clients, and trying to it's not working. Like the Swedish bitters wasn't enough or whatever.
It's true.
I had some tough nuts to crack.
Yeah, I know it.
And so, sometimes, and I'm believing more and more as I have and see more people, that there's something more. It's not just, you can't supplement your way to health. You can't just supplement
Okay,
your way out of
all
things.
right,
Like, okay, 18 more supplements. No. I'm finding that there's this other obstacle to cure that's below having the right nutrient cofactors, and even hydrochloric acid. There might be some fundamental, in my brain, I use the word energetic, but electrical component. There's a component that's subterranean that we have to
Underlying
clear
component.
first before we can then start. So maybe we were premature working on, heartburn, and we need to do some toxin removal, some
Yeah, there's something
toxemia removals.
making that. Yeah.
And then at the same time, we can do a multi-pronged approach. We can still work on your stomach acid with some exogenous, betaine HCl supplements, while also working on removing this not energetic, this electrical, and Dr. Nate's the right one to try it with.
Yeah, I'm sold on your energy, medicine, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
Is that it's a scientific fact. I mean, it's not some hocus pocus out here theory or anything. It's just got a charge. It's here. It
It's
is.
measurable.
It's
measurable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's not mainstream is just because of big business.
Yeah. It's slow, right? And
it's slow.
And it's slow, and that's. I don't even think most medications are fast, but we perceive them as being fast, right? I take my thyroid medication, and within a few days or a week, I start to feel better.
You get a headache, you take your aspirin.
Correct, and it
headache
goes away.
Yeah.
But that pain is also telling you something, or you've not removed the problem from the thyroid medication, you've just replaced it.
That's right.
Got it.
I've had a patient before where they had some heart stuff going on all of a sudden, and so they went to the hospital, and was not a heart attack, but 5, 7, 10 years prior, he had been on some high blood pressure meds. But it resolved, no longer hypertensive, no longer has high blood pressure, so was not taking them for over 5 years now. The nurse writes down, not taking his high blood pressure medication, because he used to be on it.
Yeah.
So it's like non-compliant.
But he doesn't need it anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, once you have something, you can't get rid of something.
Right.
And I can't live there. Again, individuals, but I can't say that as a whole, we have nothing to do.
Got it.
I may not know what to do, and that's honest. There's times I get stumped cases. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I start phoning friends. Phone a friend.
Sure.
Phone a friend.
Sure.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
But the reality is we're all different.
Wow.
Going back to the guy gets you've got 6 weeks to live. I'm not saying I can do nothing, but I'm also not a miracle, and I can't say that I can change something in 6 weeks.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it can't happen.
Yeah, miracles happen.
Miracles
Give it a
happen.
try. Right.
But you cannot come from the point of view that everything is fixable. We don't know the susceptibility. We don't know the damage.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But man, can we fix a lot of stuff that's going on in
Oh yeah,
life.
totally.
There's so many things.
There's
Yeah.
so many options out
Yeah.
there. And I guess that's really, I was excited to introduce you to Dr.
Yes.
Bates. I'm like, look, there's a whole other way of looking
Oh
at
my
natural
God.
medicine, you know, if
Yeah.
you want to, you know.
Well, we were talking about how I feel better now than I did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I feel like my whole body and my mind is working cognitively I think at such a peak that I've never had it before. I'm so clear about all my thoughts, what I want to do, how I got to do it, how I got to organize, and it's like,
It's going to get better and better, Randy.
yes. And I'm like, how could, that, so the theory of how you're working is that we don't have a building that's burning down like the 6 weeks. We have a life we're living, but we can prevent that from happening by getting with you and, and taking care of ourselves now. Sure. And that's what my thing is. I'm like, you gave me oregano to put on all my food. And you said, if you can do this, this will so help prevent. Parsley, I'm sorry, parsley flakes.
Yeah,
and this will so help with anti-cancer.
It has apigenin in it, which has been shown in many, many studies to be extremely effective at creating an anti-cancer terrain in your body.
Yeah. So why not
start
that?
I put parsley, even though I think it tastes like nothing.
Yeah.
I try to put it on all my food. Everything I can.
Yep.
Just get it in my diet.
Yeah. So doing what you're saying and the toxins. I mean,
there's many approaches, many ways to do this.
Oh yeah, be running behind the mosquito fogger.
Exactly.
And then living in near, Lake Erie. Back in the 60s, the most polluted lake in the world, probably.
It's Cleveland. What's the one river that's ever burned?
There you go.
Yes, the Cuyahoga.
Wow.
Yes.
You buy that? Is that where you live?
About 30 and 40 minutes away.
We had Zug Island up there with Ford Motor Company and everything in Detroit. Yeah. There was a guy fell in the river and he died. It was and the river caught on fire because it was so nasty.
It's so toxic. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, oh man.
Oh,
and now Lake Erie is pristine.
It's pretty.
But
not really.
That's the deal. Because my buddy lives in Lake Erie. He got lakefront property and all that stuff. And then, we were talking about when we were boys, it was just polluted.
Sure.
So when they clean all that up, if it's in me for 40 years,
it's already there.
It's in that lake.
Yeah. Or, the train accidents that we had multiple times, a couple last year too, right? Like, what was that? East-West Palestine over in Ohio. And, those smoke plumes went for dozens of miles westward carrying toxins. Some of that stuff probably got into the river system nearby, which is going to dump into other rivers, which dump into other rivers, right? So, you can even see concentrations of sprays up in, like, say, I'm going to get some of my geography wrong, so if you're a geography teacher, don't get mad. But up in the, Dakotas and Montana, but then all of the problems tend to concentrate down in Louisiana, downstream because all of those toxins continue to concentrate.
Wow.
Now, it doesn't mean that everybody has a problem from that toxin. Again, we all have the same exposure, different reactions. But there are correlations to things. And what is a cleanup? We don't know anymore.
Yeah, but the longevity of that poison you think it's gone. It's not. I thought it was gone out of my body and it's still lingering. So that's got to happen in the natural world too.
Correct.
In these lakes and streams and under rocks. And, we had this massive flood here in North Carolina and here, right? They all dumped in this lake. And this lake is the last reservoir. And it gets in it and it all settles down because you got a dam. And we were all talking last week. I told Tom, I said, there's people died. There was animals that died. People never find stuff. And on these rivers up here, these farmers and who knows what people have collected in barrels of stuff. And it's all in the water. So there's way more.
Yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole and get scared because, what about all the drugs? I don't know what the number is, but the average number of drugs people are taking, pharmaceuticals, by the age of 50. It's like everyone's on statins and omeprazole and metoprolol and like all the different stuff, the diuretics and and thyroid meds. And we can't filter a lot of that stuff out of the water when you pee. So you pee and it goes to the sewage plant and they get out particulates and they do a certain amount of filtering, but they can't get absolutely every chemical out, completely. And so, if you believe that water has memory, even if they get every molecule of it out, it wouldn't even matter, because the water would have the memory of all this stuff that even if you're not taking the drugs, your neighbor is, and so you can really go down this rabbit hole. So then you're like, oh my gosh, I should just die, right? Like you're,
Yeah,
but then if you believe that we are electrical beings, I like the word energetic, but electrical beings, we can affect our own water. We can clear these things. Like that's what our body's capable of doing. So if we know how to do it, I think we're embryonic in our understanding. He's ahead of most. I think if you could go into the future 200 years and look back, I think he's more going in the direction of where medicine will be going. We just don't really understand it all yet, So I have faith. I get excited. Like I have faith that we can clear it. We can clear this stuff. We just have. It might be slow medicine, and it might take a while, but we can clear it. So I sort of tell people, I don't want to say don't worry about the toxins and don't expose yourself to everything you can, and you don't use Roundup on your grass. No, if you can use a weed torch instead, make some decisions to reduce your toxic load.
Right.
But at the same time, realize you're going to be exposed to a lot of toxins, and then just deal with it.
Treat it.
And don't worry. Don't get anxiety. Just.
Have you seen the guy who's spending $1 million a year to reverse his aging?
Yes.
Okay.
What's his name? Is this guy?
I don't remember, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and so he's biological. He's 40, but his biological age is like 30.
He's on Facebook or something.
Oh, he's on YouTube all over the place. Yeah, so he's a multimillionaire and he spends it. He's supplementing his life, his health, and you said we don't need to do that. What I like about what you're saying is that, we don't have $1 million to spend a year. I like what you're saying. It's just like, hey, do this, take care of yourself, treat these toxins, and let your body repair. Yeah. And if you stay on it, do we know in the longevity of it, then you really don't know the longevity of our life, right? No. So what's this guy spending $1 million a year with all these supplements and these protocols in place? You're saying if we could treat the toxins, our body will do these things that he's trying to supplement, maybe.
That is the goal. I don't necessarily believe in what people would say of extending life, but I want to live better until that last second.
Yeah.
I want to feel better until I die.
Right.
I'm not interested in extending a day. I don't know. I don't really care. We don't know. And but I want to feel better. I also want to set myself up for dealing with exposures that are unknown in the future, right? We're continually making new chemicals or new whatever it is. I don't know what's in the future. I don't know what I will or will not be exposed to, or what will or will not develop. But
you got to keep checking.
I can make changes.
Yeah, you got to keep changing, keep being on it, and think about it, and go.
Right.
Exactly.
And then when something happens, I figure out what it is, and I treat, and I move forward.
He's making it so simple. It's like, it's just so simple, And you hate for it, but it's not simple because of the science behind it and everything you're doing.
Right.
But it is, and it's to me, it gives people hope.
Right.
Of your just everyday people, all of us living here. Because socially, I got to have my friends, and we want to hang out, we want to do stuff. But if I can't eat the food, and I can't do this, and I'm worried about toxins, and it just, you can't live in a bubble.
No. If I go to a potluck, or there was a guy's chili night for one of the games the other week, guess what? I brought my own dinner. Because I didn't want to feel bad the next day because I had stuff going on the next day.
Yeah.
But I still went. Nobody cared that I brought my own food.
Yeah.
I hung around for hours. I hung out with everybody.
So sometimes you got to do stuff like that.
There's a compromise, but I'll also go to other places and go, the best option tonight is to eat what's there.
Yeah.
And I make that choice. If I feel bad, I had a good time. I don't care.
And if you do, then you may have to treat, maybe if it affected you, whatever you had to do.
Right.
Yeah. Man, we had Singo here the other night, Friday night. Oh my God, everybody brought food.
It's like bingo, but Singo.
Yes, yes. And everybody brought chili and vegetables and just dips and all that stuff. And I hadn't eaten all day, and I'm looking at that, and of course, everything looked marvelous.
I bet.
I'm so hungry.
Exactly.
Man, I had some chips, and I had some, Dorito chips, and I'm like, I know it's got corn, and I know it's got seed oils, I know it's got some stuff in it. And
Sometimes you gotta live. You just know that you might feel a little crappier the next day, but maybe, that's what's worth doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, all right. So, how do we get a hold of you? What do we need to do? I'm gonna send you a drop of my blood. What's the cost of it? What's the time? Do you have any of that in place, or how would you like to work that out with our listeners to get a hold of you? And
Email's probably best.
Okay.
It's docnate45, so it's DOCNATE 45, so docnate45@gmail.com.
At Gmail.
Yeah, pretty
Docnate.
simple.
Okay.
Docnate45.
Docnate45@gmail.com. Okay.
Got it.
This way.
And then you'll say, hey, you'll mail me the packet, put my blood on, send it back.
Yep.
How long does it take after you get my blood? I know you're busy, you got all that.
It depends, right? As a teacher, as
Sure.
a student, I always hated the answer, and then as a teacher, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best answer ever. It depends. Food, I get the food results usually pretty quick, even if I'm pretty busy. A couple days, max 2 or 3 days.
Okay. You say food results, and then you're going to send me back an email, and it's going to say, you need to stay away from
this food, and then this is what this means for all of the food industry. So,
Here's where it's hidden.
Here's where it's hidden.
Got it.
Right,
And the name I need to be looking for.
So when you said DocNate for your email, is it DRNate or DOC?
DOC.
DOC.
Yep.
DOC Nate
Doc. Okay.
45.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, great. I apologize for.
Oh no, you're fine. So yeah, and then we go from there, and then
How much does it usually cost?
we're still working out some of the details on that,
Okay,
just
so then
because
you'll
I'm
communicate
expanding.
via email.
That's fine.
Yeah,
And
because
then-
I'm expanding what I'm doing, and the analyses are taking more time than I was hoping
Sure.
they would.
Yeah.
So there's a balance in there.
Okay.
What I like about it is that we're able to do this remotely, and then you can tell me the things, like we get blood work drawn.
I
And
usually
so-
start with blood work. Not always, but most of the time.
And so you're saying that you're going to take my drop of blood and be able to diagnose a lot of what the blood work she's looking at.
I look at totally, it's a different
Yeah.
different way of looking
Different way
at
that.
things. I
Yeah,
got it.
and I love conventional labs.
I know, I want
They're
both.
great.
I got to have both.
I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes the conventional labs will tweak which direction I check because
Got
I
it.
see something there or maybe
Okay.
my findings go, oh, that explains that.
Yes.
Like there's a crossover.
You can
Like
even
me.
email him or have me email
Blood
him
work.
your functional blood chemistry analysis and say, Deb, send to Dr. Nate this functional blood chemistry analysis, and I'll just send it to him as a PDF, and he can look at that
That's awesome.
and use it in conjunction with what
Yeah.
he does.
It's almost like you're a specialist we're going to use.
Right.
And all.
Right.
Ah,
And
I love this.
And the other reason why I like this method, again, I'm biased. I am clearly biased. The reference ranges are based on large groups of people. That's based on the herd. But
Yeah.
what does your number need to be to function?
Right.
There you
Right?
go.
We can say that
Yeah.
your
His-
hormones
his is
need to
very
be
tailored.
at
love
this
that.
level. Well, I don't care. You need to be here, or maybe you even need to be here to function, right? Everybody functions at a different level. And so your blood tells me where you need to function.
I can just see if I were you and you get this blood in. To me, I'd be excited.
Oh, it's fun.
I want to know.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
It's like, wow, what can I find? It's a hunt and treasure and pecking. And then to see somebody's life change and their health change, and you, so rewarding.
Yeah. I've never checked calprotectin before with that case earlier, but that's what the problem was. I'm like, oh, let's just go check it and
Yes.
start playing around with it.
Oh,
Which I know is probably a terrible wording, but that's the reality. It is.
yeah.
We're all educated guessers, is what I tell people.
Oh my, because I always thought, homie, you're my world, right? You're my doc. Now, there's nobody else going to help me but her.
Nope.
And I like it
Medical
now.
team.
Yes, I like
Everyone
this.
has to build a medical team around
I
themselves.
love that. The team, like you said, Wayne did with
Yes.
his cancer protocol.
Yeah, he went down and found a functional medicine doctor down in Georgia to
Yeah.
review some of the recommendations I had suggested that he wanted to review with an MD, which he should have done, and then he had an oncologist up here. And so he really built a team and then assessed everything. And then he even found a nutritionist at somewhere else. So he had a nutritionist working with him. I had my own nutrition advice for him, but he took he built a team around him. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to really
We do.
Without having disease, we need that team to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all have different perspectives.
Yeah.
Again, she's not doing anything wrong. She's got a
Right.
great approach.
Yeah.
We're just different.
Yeah. I love this. Guys, I can't encourage you more. I'm sending in my email to you. I'm going to get it. We'll do the whole system. I think I'm just excited for
Maybe
you.
1 year we can do this again,
Yes.
perhaps, and say how it went.
Yeah, and we may even do a Zoom, and
Yeah,
it'd be cool. I'll get my blood, and we'll talk about it. Maybe we can do a podcast and show and walk
like
us through
online
this.
type of one. Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be cool.
That would be neat. I'm excited for you. I'm excited that what you're
I'm
doing.
excited for you.
I'm getting better. But to see this, people sending in this blood, and you're able to make this work.
Yeah, it's good
Anyway,
stuff. Good stuff.
it works logistically.
Yeah.
That you're remote and I don't have to see you. I love that, and people can send in and find out what's wrong. So
I like that, but what I like is that it's actually effective.
It's
and
effective.
It really is getting to this.
Yes.
It's even more fundamental naturopathic than what I'm doing. Like, it's even more fundamental, and that's what excites me.
Yeah.
Is it's the future of medicine, in my humble, opinion. It's really where things have to go. Right? We might look back 100 years from now and think we were all barbarians, even having you take 18 supplements. And like what we should have been doing was like we just didn't know any better. So. But we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even deficiencies, right? We go back to metals. The body is craving to function. It has to function. So even if there's something that's very toxic, if it can function with that toxicity, it will take it in because it can't find it, right? If you're deficient in certain minerals, if there's another mineral that acts similarly,
yes.
even though it's toxic, your body will overabsorb it.
Substitutes, yeah.
That's why, if you hear about, nuclear accidents, you take iodine, right? Because you got to fill up the thyroid and all these other tissues so that you don't take in the...
That's right. You're trying to fill up those sites so it's not using
the radioactive
as a
iodine.
substitute. Yes.
Or, we're in Tennessee, so we can tease Georgia folks, right? Is that okay to tease Georgia folks, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Fine with me.
Right, dirt eaters, right? Back in the 1800s, early 1900s, they talked about kids eating dirt. Well, they were iron deficient. Georgia red clay is super iron rich. They were trying to get iron out of the dirt because they were that deficient. Their body was craving that mineral.
Georgians are called dirt eaters.
Well, not all of them, but the ones that were eating it.
Yeah.
So if you're from Georgia,
wow.
whatever.
Right.
But your body is going to get whatever it can get wherever it can get it.
Right.
Well, is there a way that if I deal with certain stresses on my body or whatever I do, let's say I'm an athlete or I do this, I need superpowers in certain parts of my life. Is there able to compensate for that? Well, can you give me something that will give me strength to,
Vitality. That's what it is.
So my body will adapt to, let's say I got a massive stressful life that I live. I don't want it to kill me. I don't want it to hurt me.
Correct.
But will my body adapt to that by healing my body, or is it certain?
To some degree, yes. And then there's always the compromise, and it's that balance of
It's going to hurt me.
What can you get rid of that stress, right? It's a balance. We can do things to make an individual more vital to overcome the exposures, whatever that is in the world.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you should continue to
You
have
can do it forever.
forever.
I got you.
So there's a compromise there.
Like I told you, like in September, when I was doing a bunch of work and I was trying to really ramp things up, I started grinding my teeth. I've never ground my teeth in my life, and my jaw was so sore. And finally, I'm like, okay, now I know where my limit is. I pushed it right up to the edge. Now I got to back off a little, find that pendulum spot where I can,
So it will help you with stress, yes, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't find what stressors can we resolve or get rid of. There's a balance, and some stressors we can't.
Don't quit what you're doing, though.
Yeah, there's a compromise.
No.
Compromise
People
there.
will be very upset.
No, I won't quit. But I'm thinking, if let's say I'm a runner and I pound my knees, pound them, and Doc, I love running. I'm going to be a multi-marathoner. What can I do to, is there stuff in what we're doing to strengthen that part so I don't have a breakdown so bad because I'm way beyond the normal person.
So then
is it just, you run 100 miles a week, you're gonna have some suffering. It's gonna hit you. You're gonna wear it out.
I don't know if I believe in the wear it out, but possible. I want to be careful there.
Okay.
But in addition to that, there are things. There's the stuff with the drops that I do. There's hydrotherapy. There's other things that can be done post working out to support the body's response.
Okay.
So yes, when I taught hydrotherapy, I did make the students do what we call an experimental project, right? They had to go home and had to pick a treatment and had to do that treatment an X number of times depending on what they did. And one guy I remember was like, I do a lot of climbing. I go to, do the rock climbing and my wrist always hurt. Can I do this wrap? I'm like, sure, go for it. So he does it, and about a month later, he comes back. He's like, Doc Nate, I can't believe it. Like, my wrist is doing better. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, of course it is. And he's like, no, but like, I can't believe it. I'm like, yeah, it should be. Mm-hmm. It should be, because you're doing these treatments that are encouraging blood flow, moving toxins out, bringing fresh blood to the area. Blood back to the area.
Yeah.
We're doing healing so that your body is responding post-climbing.
So there are compensatory things, and some of that's the stuff he's doing, and some of it might be more of along the lines of the stuff that I usually and typically recommend, which would be, yes, let's do some contrast hydrotherapy. I go that way, or red light photobiomodulation, or I might say use these inflation boots after you run your 26 miles, to try to promote the removal, and it's like the toxins, and the Ironman triathletes use these pneumatic boots a lot, right? To try to promote recovery so they can go out and run another 26 miles the next day.
Got it.
So, there are, I think it's a combination. And that's the awesome thing is there's so many tools that we all have to choose from that can work for our lifestyle. And you just got to build your team around you to help support that. I know some people come to me. I have a couple clients that come to me because I'm a licensed massage therapist in the state of Tennessee, and they just come for me to do maintenance work on them, because they do a lot of, they're a musician, they stand up, their back hurts, and so I do massage and everything that goes under my massage therapy license, and I'm part of their healthcare team, and they don't have me do their blood work, they don't have me do, I just, every 3 weeks I get them on the table and I help promote relaxation, because they need that person on their team for what they do in their life to compensate for their job, right? So you need to think of it that way. What do I need to do to build my team for the type of life that I live? If I'm a runner or a weightlifter or...
To make it last longer.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Wow. So, and just cognitively too. Somebody uses their brain all the time.
So I'm going to put you in a sensory deprivation chamber. I'll prescribe that, right?
Yes. Like nothing chamber.
That's what you need.
I do.
You have a lot going on.
You have a lot going on. You may need to have nothing for a few minutes.
Yes. Wow. This is so. I want to build that team. This is exciting, and I know our podcast has brought you in here. But my whole life I've had this, interest in health. My mom, when I was really young, back in the '60s, she was making me spinach shakes. And we were trying to do things just to eat better and all that, and so I got that from her and working out a little bit. But the reason I want to work, because my body's a tool.
Right.
And if anybody's been sick, the worst thing is you're sick, you can't operate, you can't do things. Right. And I want to live, I want to enjoy so many things in life still. And when my knees went out on me, it affected me in my mind. Yeah. I couldn't believe, because I'm so physical. Everything I do, I love physical stuff. And when I couldn't do that anymore, it affects you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think I got a little depressed. I've never really been depressed before. Yeah. And so I went to Columbia, got stem cell in my knees and in my lower back, in my both shoulders. And what a difference, the stem cell. When I researched, I said, I don't want to have surgery, Sure. And why I didn't want to have knee surgery is because I was afraid I would get hooked to the painkillers.
That's
a great thing to be afraid of, yes.
Yeah, I thought I would. Because I've heard so much pain on these, and I didn't want to do it. And I thought, I want to do it naturally. And I watched on YouTube.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
A lot of them that, said, hey, and I thought, just take the pain. And when I got down there, the doctor said, wow, I've never seen these like this before. There's like nothing left. And the bones are mushrooming and, pounding and all that stuff. And and I was like, oh, what am I going to do?
Weird, and now you've reversed it in a lot of ways because you don't have that same kind of knee pain.
Oh, no way. I mean, I walk up and so I go up the mountain every day. Like, I live walking uphill. So I walk up, and when I come down backwards.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's not beating on my joints, And then now I'm walking up backwards to part of it to strengthen around my knees.
I love that you were mixing up how you even use your body, because doing things differently is healing. Like our body likes to have different ways that we move, so that's great.
I walk down looking backwards, and I'll twist, and I feel my whole back, feeling, all that. So
I've told people to walk down the stairs backwards, like hold on to the railing and just walk down your flight of stairs backwards, just because it changes your neuronal pathways, it stresses the joints differently, and movement cures. And if you can do varied, frequent, different movement, it will help just shift things just enough that maybe your spine pain will go away or your knee pain, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do things different. So that's just fantastic.
Yeah. And my mom, when she died, she was 96. And before she died, I saw her just months before she died, she was still in the bed. She lay there and she's, I need to work my arms. So you go like that, and her legs, I got to work out, because her knees were shot. And then her poor little toes were all curled up. And I didn't know back then how to do any of that, how to help her prevent all that. And so now I'm thinking about how could I prevent this from happening?
Right.
The shoes, whatever. I just think that it is true. And if you really take the time, we take our health so for granted.
We do.
We do.
I do too.
Until you lose it.
Until you lose it, and then it's on, right? Don't take it for granted. I'm telling my boys that are in their 20s and 30s now, I'm saying, guys, and people are starting to wake up. Even young people are starting to wake up to this because they're saying, I don't want that. And I told my boys, I said, I'm not letting you play football. You are not 6'5". Your dad, I'm a munchkin. I'm a little Irish guy, right? I said, we're not big people. You're not gonna play NFL.
Right.
You're gonna hurt your back, your shoulders, your joints, your brain, all that. And I said, you're going to want to snowboard when you're 60 years old. I said, I can't now because my knees have been, I abused my body so bad, And you know what? My son now is 30. Yeah, he's 32. Okay. And he's snowboarding. He said, Dad, I'm so glad. I'm glad because he loves doing that. And so those decisions we make influence our life. So thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So docnate45@gmail.com, DOCNATE45@gmail.com. We're going to send you a ton of emails. Mine's going to be the first one I want to send out to you. And we're getting a website built. And I would love to throw a page. I was just thinking, I'd like to put something on our website too that will put you guys on there. It's all helping each other.
Yep.
We're all doing this. We got all the ladies live out here, and they've almost all of them will come to you for advice and help and
there's
looking.
Some gentlemen as well.
Yep. There's some gentlemen, and like I said, anyway, this is a real passion of mine, and it's such an interest. I never get tired of hearing her talk.
I agree.
I just go on and on and want to hear more.
Is there a remedy for that?
I get tired. You know what? I feel sorry for her because I've asked her so many questions. I just think, okay, I've got to stop her because I'm hurting her by asking her questions. I got to let her rest.
I have a compulsion that if you ask the question, I'm going to, and sometimes it's an hour answer, so I got to stop.
That's fine.
There you go.
You're fine.
He'll help me with that remedy. Give me a constitutional remedy.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is a Sunday morning. The sun's coming up. They got here before the sun came in. So give Nate a call one more time. It's docnate45@gmail.com, DOCNATE45. And that's the number 45
at
gmail.com. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.